All right, let's dive in. Today, we've got an incredible story about a company that went from a tiny garage to a total market leader. And here's the kicker. It wasn't because of some brilliant, earth-shattering idea. Nope, it was all about a radical commitment to quality when pretty much no one else cared.
And we're going to start right here with the words of the founder himself. This feeling, that what you're doing just isn't enough, that there's a bigger picture out there, well, that's the spark, right? That's what kicks off this whole thing. It's that classic entrepreneurial itch, a mix of big dreams and not being satisfied with the way things are.
So what's really amazing is how this all got started. It wasn't some grand business plan cooked up in a boardroom. Not at all. It literally began with a chance conversation, a total accident, really. The founder was just talking to the physiotherapist who was treating his own father. And from that one conversation, he learned something huge. See, the demand for physiotherapy was exploding in India, but the support system was, well, it was a mess. You had hardly any colleges teaching it, a tiny number of qualified therapists, the equipment, it was often being handled by radiographers, not specialists. And the people making the gear, they were all just small-time shops. He saw it right away, a massive, massive gap in the market.
So what do? Well, he and his partner, Viswanathan, made a pretty smart first move. They decided not to jump into manufacturing right away. Instead, they became distributors. They looked around, found what they thought was the best manufacturer at the time, and started selling their equipment.
And you know what? It worked. Business was taking off. New physiotherapy colleges were popping up and sales were climbing. Everything looked great. But then, a huge problem started to bubble up. A problem that was the complete opposite of what they stood for and threatened to sink their reputation before they even really had one. Okay, so this slide just lays it all out, plain and simple. Look at the two sides. The reality of their supplier was just awful. Poor quality, missed deadlines, and they were constantly having to fix the equipment themselves. But their goal, their whole vision, was to be quality-oriented, reliable, professional, and put patient safety first. These two things just could not exist together. It was a total clash. And that led them to a breaking point. I mean, what do? They looked around, and there just wasn't a better supplier out there. And they absolutely refused to keep selling junk. So they had only one choice left, and it was a huge, scary leap of faith. With hardly any money and zero infrastructure, they decided, we have to make it ourselves. And this is where the story gets really good. This is where the grit kicks in. Their very first factory? It wasn't some fancy lab. It was a 25 by 12-foot motor garage. And their team? The two of them and one single technician. That's it. This is as grassroots as it gets. So with no R&D department, no experts on the payroll, it was just the two partners. They were the ones designing the first pieces of equipment, working day and night. They'd source parts from wherever they could, and then they'd start putting it all together. From the moment they decided to do it themselves to having a working prototype in their hands, that took an entire year of just grinding it out.
I love this quote because it just shows you the reality of what they were dealing with. It wasn't all high-tech circuits and complex engineering problems. He says they spent more time just trying to get the metal cabinet to fit right than they did on the actual assembly or testing. It just goes to show you how painstaking and manual every single step of the process was.
And here's the crucial thing to understand. Their first products, they weren't some technological miracle. That wasn't their advantage. Their edge came from being absolutely obsessive about the basics. They focused on quality, reliability, and safety. They made sure every single component, down to the last screw, came from a reputable maker. That was their secret weapon.
So, things are starting to work. Their focus on quality is earning them a solid reputation. And then, just as they're getting their footing, boom, the market shifts. A brand new, superior technology called interferential therapy shows up in Europe, and suddenly they're facing their biggest challenge yet, but also, maybe, their biggest opportunity. Now, this wasn't just a small improvement. We're talking about a whole new way to treat pain. It was a game changer for patients. But here's the problem. In India, nobody had really heard of it. The machines were crazy expensive to import, and therapists just didn't understand how it worked. But they saw the potential, so they jumped right in. They spent another year and a half in that garage, struggling to develop their own version. And while they were doing that, other local companies rushed out these big, clunky, terrible units that didn't even work properly. They were poisoning the well, making everyone distrust this new technology. But finally, our guys were ready. They had a unit that was compact, way more advanced, and, this is key, affordable. So, the stage is set, right? They've got the better product. They've got the better technology. They've got a much better price. They launched it thinking, this is it. This is going to be a home run. This is going to change everything. And then, nothing. Crickets. There were hardly any takers. The market just completely rejected it. Can you imagine? All that work, all that struggle in the garage, all that investment, and it looked like a complete and utter failure. This was their darkest moment.
So they had to figure out why. And they realized a really tough lesson. The problem wasn't their product at all. The problem was the market. The therapists just didn't get the technology. Plus, those terrible machines from their competitors had made everyone super skeptical. People had been burned before. The market just wasn't ready for what they had built.
But here's the amazing thing. This huge failure, it's what led to their greatest success. They didn't give up. Instead, they completely changed their strategy. They realized their job wasn't to sell a box. Their job was to build trust. They had to educate the market. They had to create the market themselves, from scratch.
And their comeback plan was just brilliant. It had 3 parts. First, they hit the road and started teaching people. They ran seminars and training sessions for physiotherapists to show them how this thing worked. Second, they took on all the risk themselves. They said, don't buy it, just try it for free. Let people see the amazing results with their own eyes. And third, well, the third part was pricing.
And this was the knockout punch. Their price wasn't just a little bit lower, it was half the price of the terrible, ineffective machines that were already out there. They made a decision to price it ethically, based on what it cost them to make, plus a fair profit, not based on what they could squeeze out of the market.
And the result of all this? A complete market takeover. It was incredible. By teaching people, proving their product worked, and pricing it fairly, they basically exposed all the other guys for what they were. They empowered the physiotherapists. They didn't just compete, they pretty much owned the market, capturing over 70% of it.
And this wasn't just a one-hit wonder. This whole experience became the DNA of their company. Their entire reputation was now built on quality, service, and support. And they just kept doing it, bringing other new technologies like laser therapy to India and making them accessible and affordable for everyone.
And this final quote, it really gets to the heart of it all. At the end of the day, it wasn't the money or the market share that gave them the most satisfaction. It was knowing they had built a lasting reputation as a leader, as an ethical company that genuinely helped an entire profession move forward.
Which leaves us with one last big idea to think about. How often is the real challenge not inventing the cool new thing? How often is the biggest barrier just building the trust you need to get people to actually use it? This story shows us that technology is one thing, but trust, that can be everything.